Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about Monster Hunter Wilds. Kind of a controversial title right now, but I have some opinions on it that differ from the norm. The game is kind of widely hated by the community right now, as you can tell by these review scores, but while I get how the game reached this level of criticism, I kind of want to share my opinions on why I think Wilds is a little better than you probably think. This video will be a critique of the whole game up to the current title update 2, there will be spoilers for all of the content inside. I will only loosely touch on the story just because I don't have cutscenes available for you to be watching. With all that being said, let's just jump right in. The first thing I wanted to talk about actually is the food cutscenes. As small as they are, they're important to Monhunt as a series just as much as other cutscenes. I won't show any story cutscenes here, but I promise they look gorgeous too. The food cutscenes remember what type of food and ingredients you add to the dish, which I believe is a first for the series, don't quote me on that. There's also a special food cutscene just for the new Gathering Hub they added in the latest update, with each locality representing a different food type. So it's kind of like World and how that operates in the hub, but when it comes to the camp, all of your predetermined ingredients that you select are represented in the actual cutscene itself, which I think is really neat. Next, I want to talk about the overall graphics or look of the game. There's some things to say here that aren't so great, but overall, I think the game still looks really good, especially in some areas. It helps that they've patched a memory leak that led to a lot of stutters, so that at the very least on my system, the game runs very smooth, even not a lot of upscaling. The animations look really smooth, the character models are hit or miss, but all of the player characters themselves are really well done in this entry. Honestly, Monster Hunter World has a clearer image, but this game does have a lot of little touches that make it just that bit more modern. Coming up is the gameplay. Overall, the experience is a very mixed bag. A lot of the story quests are very much worthy of the Monster Hunter Wilds title people have been giving the game. But as for the title updates and a lot of the higher tier tempered fights, there are some actually really challenging moments here to be found. Tempered Lagiacrus has honestly been a bit of a wall for me, and it took me ages, but finally I've managed to climb it at this point. Tougher fights honestly fix a lot of the problems I have with focus mode and stun locking the monsters by making weak points, because now they're much harder to achieve, and you tend to get more spots for temporary weak points as rewards for being close to a monster after it deals a devastating attack. So we have good ward-up combat now, which is honestly unique and cool. I haven't seen that since Try. There's giant squid monsters now, like there's Zuu and New Udra. You don't fight them underwater, unfortunately, but you do fight them on land. There are monsters with whips for arms and a rail cannon for a face. I'm looking at you, Raydao. The weapons feel pretty well tuned and in balance with one another from what I can tell. Some weapons often felt very left behind in a lot of old titles, but have been really buffed up to a really good place. Like, the gun lance is insanely strong for no reason, and it hasn't been in so long, and I'm so happy. I love gun lance. I know nobody mains that weapon, but I do! It's important to me. The experience is extremely streamlined, for better and for worse. I think it has a very different feel to a standard Monster Hunter game, but as an action RPG, it still feels very solid. Now, I wanted to go over the performance fixes for the game. The game is really far from perfect on this front, but honestly, people don't talk enough about the actual fixes. I've seen a lot of people say it's gone as far as to make it worse, which I don't know what's happening on your system, but it really shouldn't be. They've done a lot to make it a lot more functional, and it's still got a long way to go, but I think it is worthy of mentioning that on higher-end systems, the game's actually playable without stuttering now. That's pretty huge. I can get decent FPS on it, similar to what I'd get on like the Oblivion remake. Again, another UE5 engine, I understand, but you know, comparisons should be drawn where they should be drawn. And I think as far as UE5 goes, it's okay on that engine. Really, I don't think that's a Monster Hunter specific problem here anymore. There's just like a lot of limitations to the early version of Unreal Engine 5, and that's just something we have to live with now. I'm hoping that they do continue to make improvements here, because if they can get it just that little bit more, it might be like suitable in 4K for most people in a higher end system. Until then though, I will stick with my 1440p and my pretty consistent 165 FPS. So I'd say it just works at this point, at least for me. And And next I wanted to talk about the environments, starting with the open worlds, as there are some issues with these two, but overall I think they're pretty well designed, and they're also kind of pretty. I'm not against the more vertical nature of the maps, and I think it's one of the few times the auto run feature can come in handy, as it like vaguely directs you towards the monster, and then you just take back control and go back to gathering on your way. There's plenty of endemic life to see and collect in the maps, and the locales are colorful and vibrant while still keeping with the game's grittier tone that it tends to stick with. Next up, there are the cities as well, but more importantly, the hub. The new gathering hub should have been in the base game from the beginning, but it's here now, and it is free, admittedly. It's pretty, it's gorgeous, and it's comfy as hubs tend to be in this game. I really like the bowling minigame that we have here that you can spend your vouchers on. I suck at it, and I only ever get B's or C's, as you'll probably see from the footage behind me, but it's still a fun side distraction. It's a nice public space, and I hope we get one in the base DLC instead of having to wait for an update to roll around. The cities themselves are honestly not too exciting. I don't spend a lot of time in them. They do fit the culture of the NPCs and work well enough for the story, and I think they do have a place in this game still. And next we have the character and Palico skills, and there is a lot to say here, and it's not particularly positive, unfortunately. Palico skills are basically just letting the Palico do just about everything with no consequence or build. Outside of weapon choice, there really isn't much to write home about when it comes to the felines. As for armor skills are almost entirely useless in this game. There's barely any choice, and what there is basically just picking for preference for which armor damage skill you can fit on for your weapon type, or which nerfed comfort skill you want to choose from. The weapon and armor jewels are now entirely separate, leaving weapon slots to be way more important for improving damage, and the goal of this was basically to open up the builds to use more diverse skills, but honestly, it just has the opposite effect, where in weapons that require weapon jewels to function, like rapid morph, artillery, like load up, all these kinds of things, you need to always use those on your weapon slots, whereas a weapon that doesn't require that, like longsword or dual blades, will just eat up on damage skills. Like, you can just put expert and damage jewels on those, whereas you just can't with the other ones. It basically locks you into certain weapon builds, rather than, you know, diversifying the skill list. And yeah, either like this system needs to be completely dismantled, or weapon utility skills need to be equipable on armor, because as it stands, the system takes a very limited amount of skills and somehow makes them less accessible. I don't know how they did that, but I'm impressed. It's pretty bad. And also, it'd be hard to talk about the game without mentioning some of the aspects of the story. The characters themselves, for the most part, are quite a joy to see on the screen. I enjoy some of the return to form we had with the guild playing like a larger part in the overall narrative. I do miss some of the old Monster Hunter vibe that's missing though. In games like For You and before, you weren't really treated as anything special, but this game, and kind of Worlds is guilty of this too, and so is Rise, they treat you as like special right from the beginning. It's a cinematic an overall sweet story about returning a child to their family and watching them like grow into a more rounded person, or protecting the local ecology in traditional Monster Hunter fashion. But that element of progression is largely lacking, as everyone recognizes you as someone that's already an ace hunter, rather than an amateur climbing to be finally in the big leagues, finally that ace hunter. It's a different experience, and honestly, I'm quite fond of the older style of the Uncaring Worlds from the older titles, along with their generally quite silly and dry sense of humor. Like the Street Cook, I don't know if anyone remembers that from For You, but it's kind of wild, and you should check out a cutscene or two with him. Anyway, a lot has been lost in that terms of the story department since World, and Wilds is just proof that we're probably not getting that back. Finally, I wanted to talk about the monsters. The lineup is admittedly rather short for a Monster Hunter game, but considering it's basically just been made from the ground up, just as World did years back, I'm not too upset with it. There's 8 less monsters in base Wilds compared to base World, but almost all of the roster is completely unique, even the subspecies, as they lack regular counterparts for the most part. Still, it's not that bad, especially when you consider that, yeah, the roster is unique to Wilds, and some have really interesting designs. I'm quite fond of New Udra, Arkveld, Zoshia, and Raydal, especially just to name like a few of them. While a lot of the monsters is so easy you don't need your brain on at all, the latter end of the roster does start to ramp things up a little bit, especially when you get to Tempered and where the endgame kind of sits. The new title update monsters are extremely potent when tempered, like Iagris especially so. It seems like Capcom did actually listen to fans and respond accordingly when we told them it was too easy. So here's to hoping future updates and content all follow the trend we're seeing. And now, I'd like to sum up my time here with Monster Hunter Wilds. When it came out on PC, I played near launch and it wasn't really in a good place. The roster was limited and not very strong even towards the end game. The performance was unplayably bad and it seemed like there was no real hope for the game. But Capcom hasn't given up yet on it, despite the overwhelming criticism, and I don't think I will either. It's not been a typical journey through a Monster Hunter, but it's been a fun one nonetheless, and I hope it keeps improving from here. I've had a lot of fun, especially playing it with a friend, as you often will in these games. The public lobbies are perfectly serviceable if you're missing one too, with more multiplayer features than ever to keep you engaged. If you're on the fence with Wilds, wait for its sale and give it a shot. It might not be what you expect, and it takes a bit to ramp up, but overall I think it's a pretty good experience in its current state. And so that was it for my Monster Hunter Wilds review. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I've enjoyed making it. This video in particular took way longer to script, film, and edit than my normal content, but I just wanted to try some new things, and well, I think it's turned out pretty good. So thank you to everyone who watches these videos and supports me. I'm gonna keep making these silly videos because honestly, it's just a blast putting it all together and just learning new things, making something. I appreciate everyone watching this, and I hope I see you all next time.